What's up, Fiberista friends? Welcome to the 496 channel. My name is Allison and I'm coming to you from El Paso, Texas. Today is Monday, August the 21st, and did you guys get eclipsed? Because we did. We had our glasses. These pair were unused. I could have been one of those really fishy people and tried to sell them for 50 bucks the day of the eclipse, but we don't do stuff like that in this family, so we watched the eclipse. We did the live stream from NASA. We're probably still going to watch it throughout the day since the rest of the country is going to experience it over the rest of the day. But down here in El Paso, we only got about 70% totality. So we used a kitchen strainer to see the shapes of the shadows on the concrete, and then we had our glasses to look up at the sun to see it as it was happening. I think it's about done now. Excuse me. It's done around 1:10, and I think it's close to 1. So hope you guys enjoyed that. We're not big science nerds in this house, but we do get excited about stuff like this because science is cool, and we want our kids to understand how cool science is, even though we don't personally do anything in the science fields, if that makes any sense. We want to make sure our kids know that science is a fun thing to do. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. And then as we were watching the NASA one, we watched part of the total eclipse, and then Levi found the picture in here. He's like, I found a match. So he saw that those were the same. And it's just really cool. And it was kind of cool to see how overcast it looked without having clouds in El Paso, because the sun is very bright here. People always ask that know we moved from one climate in Germany to here. We're military, if you haven't watched the channel before. They ask us how we're acclimating to the area, and the heat really isn't the problem, but when you're standing in the sun, it feels like your skin is just burning, even with sunscreen on, but you just get that, it's so hot. Like, the heat's not the problem, but if you're in the sun, it makes a huge difference. If you're in the shade, it's actually somewhat tolerable. So, whatever. El Paso for at least another 2.5 years before we move again, so we better get used to it, right? But okay, like I said, my name is Allison. If you want to find me on Ravelry, you can find me under 4knitsakes, one word, no underscore. If you want to find me on Instagram, it is 4knit_sakes. And you can send me messages. We also have a Ravelry group, and I'll put the link down below that you can go check out to see. This is just a video channel about knitting, crocheting. Project Linus is something that I am a part of, and I can talk more about that later during my works in progress, and any other craft that catches my fancy. I'm really interested in learning how to spin. I would love to learn to weave, but I don't really quite have the money to buy a loom at the moment, and I'm not really quite sure how much I would do, so that's kind of on the back burner right now. But knitting is definitely something that I do on a daily basis, and I started the channel originally to chronicle my knit from just my stash challenge that I had for the first half of the year, where I only knit stuff that I had in my stash over here in my bookcase. And I did a pretty decent job. I emptied out an entire bin full of stuff, full of yarn. And then even now, all of my bins aren't 100% full. And of course now. Okay, there we go. Got it back in. And I bought some yarn in the month of July. And now that I have splurged and spent a little bit of money on yarn, I am only buying yarn for projects until the end of the year, for projects that I have planned. So I did buy a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it was for a test knit that I signed up for, and I needed a sweater's quantity worth of yarn. So, yeah, we'll hop right into finished objects. I have 2 finished objects and a half finished object. So my first one I will talk about, because I need to get it in the mail this week, is my Martine hat. This is a free pattern on Ravelry that I decided to knit for a friend. Her daughter was just diagnosed with her 2nd relapse of cancer, and she's only 9, you guys. She was first diagnosed, I think, when she was 2.5 or 3, maybe 3.5. And she's more of a friend of my husband's. They were in school together, but you know, you kind of gain friends when you marry somebody. which isn't a problem. She's so super sweet. They live in Virginia, so I need to get this out in the mail to her. I did double stranded of wool-like from Loops and Threads, and it's just a really simple 4-row repeat. There's one, can you spot the mistake? Right here. I mean, nobody else will really notice. I asked my husband and he was like, is there something with the brim? Like here? And I was like, no. I was like, look a little harder. And you can kind of see it from far away that this little row right here, I did an extra repeat, I think, of the first row. First and second row are the same, and then the third and fourth row is where you do the crossed over, the passover stitch, and then yarn overs. It's supposed to look a little bit more holy, but since I used basically a sport weight because of the two threads held together, it's like a light fingering yarn. It's all acrylic. I wanted it to be really soft because she already had to cut her hair really, really short. I wanted it to be soft and not itchy, so I didn't do wool. And the Loops and Threads wool-like is actually, I think it's a pretty decent, this is the third project I've made. I've done 2 shawls and now a hat. It's a little more tightly knit than I wanted it to be. I also went down in needle size to accommodate a child's head, and I used Levi as my model just to make sure it fits my head. It stretches enough to fit an adult size head. It's just not as slouchy as it is in the picture of the pattern. It doesn't bother me too much as long as it keeps her head warm while she's in the hospital, and just a little bit of hand knit love for her. So I have to get this off in the mail, and I think I might send something because she has a little brother and a little sister. I might find some hand knits that don't have a home in the house right now and send those out. So the Martine hat, free pattern on Ravelry, super fast knit. I did a size 1 for the brim and a size 3 for the hat, and I think the pattern calls for a 3 and a 6 on fingering weight yarn. But yeah, so that's finished object number 1, not for me. Now my second finished object is I showed in an episode or 2 ago that Cascade Dolce that I was given at the Knit Guild meeting, and I had to make a one skein project to showcase or to show the ladies when the September meeting that's next month, and we could incorporate any other yarns, beads. There really wasn't any rules, you just had to use the one skein of yarn. So what I did, and I've been wanting to not design something, but I didn't want to have to search for a pattern. All I did was look for patterns in the same weight yarn so I could figure out a cast on number for a cowl, because I really like cowls, but the problem is I'm finding they're either not bunchy enough or they just sit kind of funny. And so what I wanted to do with this one, now it's technically finished, but it's been blocked and washed and everything, but I still haven't woven in the ends. So what I did is I pulled out my book down here, my 750 knitting stitches book, and I was looking for color work patterns, and I've marked some other things for hopefully some future projects. I have an idea for a sweater, maybe. I guess it's called free knitting if you don't really have a plan. So what I did was I pulled up this page, show really quick, buy the book. It's actually a really great book. This was given to me in a swap with some military spouses that I do in my group. So it's just the ultimate knit stitch Bible, and I think it's really good. It separates everything by cables, lace work, color work, bind offs. So it's really great in my opinion. I've only used it just to make this cowl, but I have stuff marked for later to work on. So what I did was I cast on 108 stitches, and I did a 2x2 rib, I think with size 8 needles. And then I did this color work here, this little triangle, not super complicated. I didn't want anything super fancy because I was gonna do the stripes here. And then I did some big chunk stripes here and then some mini stripes here, and then just reversed it. Did the same thing on the bottom. So the red is the Cascade Dolce in some burgundy color. It's discontinued according to Ravelry, which is I think why we were getting it at the Knitting Guild. They probably got it for fairly cheap on sale if it was being discontinued, and it only comes in 50 gram skeins. So I only got a 50 gram skein, which is only like 100 something yard, so not a whole lot. And now, this is what I have problems with cowls. Like, I need the middle part to be big, but I probably should have cast on less here. Like maybe this much less stitches. So it would be a little bit closer to the neck. But it's not terrible. I just wish it would sit a little flatter. And that might be my bind off edge. That looks like my bind off. I don't know. I think that might have been it. I don't know. Let's try it on the other way. I just wish it was slightly smaller up top, closer to my neck. But I can just wear it like that, probably in November when it finally starts to get cool. It's actually kind of chilly, not chilly in the morning, but it's in the 60s, like low 70s in the morning, so it's cooler outside than it is inside the house. So we're getting there. But the highs during the day are still in the 80s and the 90s, unfortunately. I can't wait for fall. I just wish fall would last longer here, but it doesn't. So, FO number 2. I just called it a free knit cowl. I need to learn how to not do this, where the jogs happen. I don't know quite how to do that. I'm sure there's a video. I think it's really easy. You just slip a stitch or something. So then your colors, there's not a stair step in between where you change your colors. I'm not sure. But there's that. And then I have a half finished object, which is my super stripy toe-to-toe socks. They didn't end up being toe-to-toe socks because I don't like picking up stitches. And as much as I like the fact of just the idea of knitting from toe to toe without separating and knitting the other sock, I just couldn't do it. Now, this is what it looks like. I haven't woven in the ends because, or this end, because I don't like the cuff. I did the cuff in just the Noro, and it stretches and doesn't bounce back. And that just might be the singles or just the way the Noro is, but I'm going to be ripping out the cuff and doing it in the pickle juice color that was here. But I do like the way the sock turned out. It's gonna look kind of blown out because of the lighting, because I alternated the skeins of the Noro and a Patton's Croix sock yarn called Clover. So I really like how it turned out. My second sock isn't gonna look anything like this because the gradient or the striping for the Noro is really wide compared to the Patton's Croix. The Patton's Croix switches much more quickly as I'm knitting than the Noro does. But I do like the feel of the socks. They're very nice and squishy. I knit them on size 0s, Chiaogus, and I just did a short row heel here. And I just marked here so I would know how many rows to do for the foot, which I had to do a lot less of because the thickness and thinness of the Noro made my row gauge a lot different than what I usually do. My row gauge for, well, not my gauge, but the amount of rows that I do for my foot before I do the toe is usually 60 rows. And this turned out to be more like 57. So 3 rows short, not a huge difference, but if I had knit to 60, then my heel would have been too far back. So I'm going to rip out the cuff because I'll take it off the blocker and then you'll see. You can see how wide this goes and it doesn't spring back. So there's not a lot of elasticity to it. This is the actual Noro sock yarn that's wool and silk and maybe part like polyamide, which is basically polyester or kind of like acrylic, I guess. And I mean, I like the way that it looks. I like the Noro, the green that it landed on when I got to the stripe, but it just doesn't fit my foot. So I have to rip it out and do the pickle juice for the heel. It's living currently in a Kicks and Giggles bag that my sister got for me back in 2013. I'm not sure if the company is still around. So check it on Etsy. But my next sock isn't going to look anything like the first one because I'm going to be starting with this taupey gray. And you can kind of see I'm not going to get back to that bright orange for a while. So I might get through the whole sock before I get back to here. So the sock isn't going to look at all like the other one. They'll be cousins, maybe. Not identical twins. Not even brother and sister. Cousins. So I'll do that, and then now I know that I need to rip out the cuff and do it in the highlighter pickle juice, which I'm so sad they don't have this on Knit Picks anymore. And I wanted to go back and buy some, at least in the fingering weight. They do have it in some of the heavier weights, but they don't have any. And I kind of wanted another ball of this bright purple because I had an idea for a sweater. I only have one of these in the bright purple. I forget what color, the actual color name of it was, but now I might have to change up what I want to do for my yarn for that. So I will cast that on when I feel like it. I felt a little defeated after I finished it, so I didn't want to cast on the next one. Sorry, all that fiber got in my nose. So try not to say a whole lot. So those are it for my finished objects. I do have a couple works in progress. Well, I do have 2 squares done on my Cozy Memories blanket, and I started another one, but it's nothing super fancy. I just did 2 squares here on the end. This blue one here is my 2 blues from my faded sweater, which, by the way, if you participated in Christy Glass Knits and Gemma Darling's Danielle's Fedito knit along, and if you participated and you posted a finished object, everybody won prizes. I don't know what I'm getting, but I'm getting a prize. It's my first knit along prize I've ever won, so that's really exciting. But I found that out today. They did a little live video and they're like, everybody gets a prize, and I'm like, yes, Oprah. And then when Christy announced my handle, my For Knit's Sake, she goes, for Knit's Sakes, which is exactly what I was thinking when I came up with the name. Trying not to say FFS in front of my kiddos. If you don't know what it is, just Google it. It should come up what it stands for. So I did this one here, which is the leftover piano color from my Faded Flax Light, but I ran out like halfway through. You can see here where I switched to the blue color that was also in my Faded Flax Light, and this is some opal yarn that I've had forever. I did some socks, the fidget socks, a while back. So it's a sort of a self-striping, but this stripe here is kind of more of a pattern. I guess it's more of a pattern sock yarn, but it's a sock yarn I had for a while. And I still have so much left. I wonder if I can find it really quick. Yeah, I did a whole pair of socks and I did my square, and I still have this much left. It's probably enough that I could do another pair of socks, like shorty socks. Even if I didn't have enough, I could hold some fingering weight double to do the heels and the toes. But look at this. This was a 100-gram ball of opal sport weight sock yarn. I think this was the Romance. It's like their 8-ply. I'm gonna knit another pair of socks eventually. Oh, here's that purple I was talking about. The Stroll Brights Vibrant Violet. I only have one of these, and I might need 2 for my sweater idea. So that's a bummer. But yeah, so I just did those 2 squares there. And then I let Levi help me pick a whole bunch of new squares. So this is the new one that's on. This is lace weight. If I can show you. I knit a spindrift shawl. It's almost like mohair, but I don't think mohair is part of it. It's in my stash somewhere, but I had maybe like 3/4 of a 50-gram ball left of it, so I'm holding it double to make that square. And if I look up the content of it and I really like it, I think I'm going to pair it with this lace weight because this is held double as well, and I think I might make a pair of socks out of it just because it's fun. And I have a lot of this one left. I think it's down here at the bottom. Yep, sure is. I still have all this left. This is what I got from when the Homburg store went out of business when we were living in Germany, and it was part of my wool booty, as Wool Jewel would call it. Go Pirates! From when they closed, I bought a lot of yarn because I bought some yarn that was 30% off, and then they had everything 50 to 70% off, and so I went back a second time. Who wouldn't, right? Okay, so that was, I guess, my last finished object / work in progress, and so we'll go to works in progress. So I'm gonna pull out, this is a project that I made myself out of a wrap scrap from Didymos Wraps. If you're a baby wearer, you know what I'm talking about. And this is my tote folded bag. It's nothing special. I'm not going to spend a lot of time chatting with you about this because it's just one long piece of stockinette. And that's all it is. So if you look up the free pattern on Ravelry, tote folded bag, it is, you can either do it in garter stitch or stockinette stitch. I'm doing stockinette because I like the way it looks better as a finished object. And theirs I think was 12 inches, and then you basically just knit 3 times the length as the width. Now my width is 14 inches, so that would give me 42 inches. I think I'm somewhere about halfway. And then I just joined my second ball of yarn here. So I've only been knitting with the new ball for, I don't know, like 20 rows, 25. And so this is just some Rowan linen cotton, again, part of the booty that I got from the Holmberg store. And I still have this left over. This is also Rowan, same yarn, same content. This is left over from my Walk in the Wood shawl. This is a super, not a fuzzy yarn, but I get this stuff all over my clothes. So I'm going to stripe this color into this when I get a little bit closer, because this isn't quite, I need to weigh it just to see how many stripes I can get. If I can't get enough, then I'm going to use this. I think this is Blue Skies alpaca, but it's a silk cotton blend. It's also in my stash on my page. I usually throw away ball bands as soon as I put them in my stash because I'm not a big fan of clutter, even though I'm looking at a whole bunch of it over here on my sewing desk. But this is on my stash. But if I don't have enough of this, then I'm gonna stripe this with it. I think what it's gonna end up being, it's gonna be a project bag. I'm not sure if I'll use it as a purse, but it'll be functional as a purse. Because on the website that the free pattern comes from, it gives you the directions on how to fold it and mattress stitch it together. And to make the straps, if you do the garter stitch version, you might have to do like a little I-cord to attach it. But this one, I think the way it was done, the sides come up enough to make like a box shape with a triangle dip in the middle. The two sides come up high enough that you can attach them, and that becomes the handle. We'll just see what it looks like when it gets there. If not, I'll figure something out. So that's just my mindless knitting, like if the boys play outside, or we went to the library earlier this week and they sat and played Legos for like 30 minutes and I got a lot of rows done. My problem is purling back a whole row hurts my thumb. So this muscle here starts to hurt. So between this project and my next one I'm going to show you, my Second Avenue shawl, this muscle right here starts to get in a lot of pain just from having to purl. Maybe I just need to learn a different way to purl. I'm a continental knitter, and purling for me just, oh man, just purling in general I don't like. I don't know many people that enjoy purling though. Okay, so next thing is the Second Avenue shawl by Amy Miller. I am to the eyelet section, and I'm halfway done with the eyelet section. So I've done my cast on in the Anzula lace held double in some blue colorway, and then Parat Vola here, and then striped with Island yarn Siam CM, and then back to some Parat Vola, and then the purple is also Parat Vola. It is from a sweater I knit for my niece back in December, and I'm halfway done with just the eyelet section. So I still need to knit another half. So I'm about 7 inches in, and you have to knit 14 inches total. And then I will move into some plain off-white Regia. And I did decide from my last podcast that I was going to incorporate this green in. I just need to decide how many stripes to put in at the bottom, because it's going to be striped with this, which these two colors look really good together. But then looking at my little schematic that I showed last time, it would be, if I wanted to do 3 stripes instead of 2, it would be in between these 2 blues for the first stripe. So I don't know if this is going to work or not. I haven't decided. I figured I would make a decision when I get there, like all knitters do sometimes. Well, some knitters do sometimes, not all. So this is just a beast of a project. It's really wide and it's still rolling. I think I've decided if this rolls after I wash and block it, then I am going to pick up the stitches and I'm going to cut this edging off and then just do the bind off that is for the other side of the wrap. Because this is going to bug me that if it won't sit flat. And I'm going to pin and stretch it like crazy. I'm going to even iron it if I have to, but I think I can. I mean, it's pretty wide. I think it would be fairly easy to pick up the stitches, just the knitting's going to go in the opposite direction. So I'm not really quite sure how that's going to look. So I'm just hoping it'll block out. And then the stockinette is rolling on the sides, but that's just normal for stockinette to do anyways. I'm sure some of it will block out. I did go up from the garter edging. I added an extra stitch than what the pattern called for, which you're not going to see in the long run. Nobody's going to notice that I added a garter stitch. It's pretty, I mean, I notice it just because I know my knitting, but nobody's going to look at it and be like, that looks odd. So, okay, let me show this a little bit more slowly, or just hold it up. You can see how wide it is. It smells good. Let's see. So I'm on size 6 needles, my 4-inch needles, so the shorter ones, and then the cord is a 22-inch cord. So between the two, this is 30 inches total, and if I stretch it too far, it's going to fall off my needles. So you can see how wide that is. And again, it's purling all the way back on one side, so that muscle is getting a major workout doing this right now. So, and then my last work in progress, I believe, yeah, are my Project Linus blankets. Now I ran into a little snag. We get these little kits. This is for the future. We get these little kits when we go to meetings, or we can choose to pick these kits up. A lot of ladies quilt. I'm not a quilter yet. But we can get these little fleece kits with a matching yarn, and the holes are already using like a rotary cutter. I've looked them up on Amazon. They're not super expensive. I just don't own one. The holes are already put into the fleece, and then you just put the edging in. My edging doesn't look super fancy, but you know, as it's worked out, they straighten out when you connect them. My problem was I got a set of teal ones. They're up there. They didn't have the holes in them. And I only see these ladies once a month, and I didn't want to not have any finished blankets. So my solution was to crochet a panel, because it was only 2 for 2 blankets. So I had 4 panels total that would be missing, and I don't have enough time to show up to the meeting, have the holes cut, edge them, and then add them into the blanket, and then stitch the Project Linus tag on it. So I decided this will work for now. It'll add a little bit of extra handmade finish to the blanket, and I still edged it in the purple, same way I did with all of my other panels here. I haven't pieced this blanket together yet, and I still have another blanket, so I still have one more of these panels to make, and I decided to do a crochet square that doesn't have as many holes in it, so I only have the 4 here. And I might do one. I found a pattern for like a completely closed granny square. It does use a little bit more yarn. I think my next one I'm going to use a bigger hook, because this feels really stiff even for Red Heart, and I don't want the blanket to feel stiff, but I think it'll be fine if it's going to be on the outside corners. This is a 3x3 blanket. It'll be on the outside corners of the blanket, and the fleece is going to make up the rest of it. So this is going to go with this owl print that I picked up with flowers. And so I just need to make one more white panel, and then I need to make some panels for the turtle blanket, which I'll have to show my next episode. So I was hoping this would be a short episode, but I'm getting a little chatty. Sorry. Hope you don't mind. So that is that, and then we will hop into what's going to be on my needles soon, because I need to start thinking about Christmas knitting. So I've gotten a lot of cakes put together. Like this one will be a pair of socks for my dad. I already have my 2 threads pulled through my button. Thank you to Connie Knits and Chelsea Knits for sharing. So I do that before I cast on so I can knit 2 at a time. I know the stripes will go in opposite directions. It doesn't bother me. I don't think my dad cares too much. So this I'll take out. These will be on Chiao Goose size 1s. And this is just a bunch of blues and a little bit of navy. I already know his stitch count for what fits his feet. So those will be started soon. So I caked that up yesterday with some help from Levi. They like to turn the thing. And then I'm going to do a pair of socks for my mom. This is some sport weight sheeps. I got this in a yarn shop in The Hague. That's upside down. That doesn't help. I got this from a yarn shop in The Hague in the Netherlands when I was visiting. So this is red jasper. And it's a cotton acrylic blend. My mom does not like wool. I don't think she's allergic to it. I think she just has a sensitivity to it. So same thing. I put my button. I'm going to make shorty socks for her. I've never known her to wear super long socks, and these are just kind of going to be house socks. I do have the second ball, but I didn't want to break into it if I didn't have to. And sport weight, I don't use nearly as much yardage, especially if I'm making short house socks. So those are going to be on the needles soon. They'll probably be size 3 needles and 45 to 48 stitches. My mom has much smaller feet than I do. I think maybe like a 7.5, which is about two sizes down from what I wear. So her socks are going to be about a half to 3/4 inch shorter than what I do. And then this is what I bought. So this is kind of going with acquisitions. I signed up for a test knit and I needed a sweater's quantity worth of wool, worsted weight wool. And so I went on Michaels, I went on Joann, I went on Knit Picks, and I did all of the math to figure out how much I would be paying for the amount that I needed. And this is the time where I wish I was a little bit smaller so I could knit smaller sizes and not have to buy so much yarn. It would be slightly cheaper. Michaels was having a buy 2 get 1 free sale, and I went. Theirs wouldn't have been the cheapest, but I wouldn't have had to order online to have it shipped. So I was saving $8 shipping from Joann or saving money shipping from Knit Picks, because if I ordered from Knit Picks, I would have ordered $50 worth. And the wool of the Andes, I think, was only going to cost me $22, and I didn't want to order another $28 worth of yarn just to get the free shipping. So Michaels was my best bet. I went with the boys, and I picked up all of this Patton's wool worsted. I forget what color it is. What color is this? Jade Heather. So, and I picked up 12 balls total, but some of this yarn is going to be used to make another shrug for a friend of mine, Emily. So I'm going to make her a shrug out of these 2 colors. I asked her if it was okay if I got a whole sweater's worth with this. Whoops. And if I could knit a sweater, and she's like, sure, we could be twinsies. So her shrug is going to be this Aran color on the top and the Jade Heather on the bottom. So I have until November, December to make that for her. But I swatched last night. Pigs will be flying. It is my first ever swatch I have done on a garment. I know all of you out there are probably cringing. I just don't like to swatch. But if I hadn't swatched, my gauge was right on according to the pattern. So I cannot show you the progress on this project until I am given the go-ahead by the designer, but it's going to be really cool. Now, when will I ever wear a wool sweater in the middle of the desert? Maybe like 1 or 2 days in the month of January or February. I may see if I can knit like 3/4 length sleeves. So then I'll have a little bit extra, but the way I'm thinking it's gonna be kind of like an oversized sweatshirt equivalent, that I don't think the 3/4 length sleeves will work. It won't look right with the way the rest of it will look. So I just might have to knit the full length sleeves and only wear them every once in a while. Like I said, we're military, we move every 3 years. We could move to a very cold climate next. We could also move to Georgia or South Carolina next, and then it'll never be winter there. I lie, it's sometimes winter in the South, just not nearly as often. I grew up in Virginia, like right on that line where it is cold in the winter, or it can be super cold, but it's also really hot in the summer. Fall and spring don't last very long before it switches to the next thing. So what can you do? Also, coming up in October for our knitting guild, we are making chemo hats for local organizations. And so I rounded up all of my cotton yarns here, and I will be knitting chemo hats for probably the last half of September. I don't know how many I will make. I did get 2 balls from the knitting guild that a nice member of the guild brought in a bunch of cotton yarn. So this is worsted. I'm thinking of making barley hats for maybe kids because it's pretty short yardage, only 89 yards per ball. But what I also thought I could do is I could mix and match and do contrasting brims and do the body of the hat in a color, so I would have enough. So that also needs to be done. I can't close that all the way. And then, this is far distant future, but I just wanted to talk about it. Does anybody remember my great unravel cotton sweater that I got? So this is what I've gotten from one sleeve. And I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do with it. I originally thought I was going to do a Madewell by Joji Locatelli because it's a pretty decent fingering, maybe heavy fingering, light sport weight. But then I thought, I have so much of this, I really want to knit another Exploration Station by Stephen West, but I don't want to buy yarn for it. I have enough in this sweater. I need to weigh it all out. I'm pretty sure I have enough that I could dye 4 different colors. Well, leave this one the same, this like heathered blue color, and then dye 3 other colors from what I have left. I haven't even pulled it apart yet because they alternated skeins, so I will get 2 balls from everything. So I still have the whole body of the front and the back and 1 sleeve. And I remember when I knit mine, I didn't use full skeins, and I had Hedgehog Fibers skinny singles when I made it, so I don't need full 100 grams, and I know cotton and wool does not weigh the same, so I need to put that into my thought process. So I think I'm going to dye the pieces and then unwind. I just have to make sure I have enough of the original blue before I do that. I need to weigh all of these just to see how much they weigh, how much I have total, divide by 4, go from there. But that's my plan. I'm just going to use RIT dye. Hopefully whatever I can find at the stores here. If not, I'll order online. I was thinking I already have navy, which is what I was going to dye all of this, but I'm going to just dye 1/4 of it. And then I was thinking a green, and then maybe like a teal blue or just a different colored blue. Excuse me. So I would get 4 different colors and then knit an Exploration Station at some point in life, probably after Christmas knitting, because I also start a college class today. I signed on and like just looked at the syllabus and already felt behind. It's only 1 class. It'll be fine. It's all online. It's a lot of like discussion stuff. So you have to reply to discussion threads and everything like that. So that is all I think I have for, nope, just kidding. Also have the Marley shawl for my husband, and I caked up the yarn and everything, but I'm not going to start it until I have my 2nd Avenue off the needles, which will probably take a while. But he chose these 2 colors. This is a Dreamin' Jilly anniversary color, and this is that green Selena. I think it has like a golf name to it. It's a Kramer Sterling Silk and Silver, Masters Green. So, but I do realize that these are kind of short. I didn't realize when I bought the pattern that it required 2 balls of each color. So I'm going to have to weigh as I go along, and it's going to be a smaller shawl than what is in the pattern. That doesn't bother me. I don't think it's going to bother John to have more of a smaller shawl. I'll just be worn kerchief style anyway, so it'll be perfect. So I wish I could get like a better color representation. This skein is so pretty. And then this green matches so well with it. I really wish I could knit a pair of socks out of this. Like Christmas socks. But I don't have enough. Oh well. So that's future knitting as well. And then, this is yarn I got when Holmberg closed, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I want to buy it because it's pretty. It's alpaca. Look at that halo. Can you see it? Maybe? Okay, you can kind of see it there. It's super fuzzy. 100% alpaca. This is Pacupura, spun in Peru. Now, the dye lots do match, but it is self-striping, and I did not realize that when I bought it. When I looked it up and I looked at projects that were knitted, it is self-striping, and I'm not big on self-striping in garments. I don't wear stripes very often. I don't think I really wear stripes a whole lot ever. Now I just realized I showed you two projects with stripes in it. Accessories don't bother me so much, but I was thinking of doing a short row scarf where it has like short row triangles that would separate all of the stripes, or I was thinking of doing a glacier sweep by Stephen West. I have enough of this that I could do the bigger size. It's in worsted and in fingering, so I'd do the worsted size because this is DK weight, and then just use the suggested needle size, but then I would probably still have some left. Probably would have to make a hat. All of this says to use a US 3. Maybe it's sport weight. I might have to look that up. But it's really pretty blue, even though it's not my season. It's a really pretty blue, and I think it would look really cool with like you could see the striping in parts of the shawl, the glacier sweeps shawl. Try to say that 5 times fast. Or if I do the short row scarf, the striping would be completely kind of blocked together. Maybe I'll start both and then decide which one I want. I don't know who it's going to go to, but I want to knit this just because it's really soft and really fuzzy. So I was thinking also if I do the short row scarf to make it like a wrap size, so maybe make it kind of wide, a wide scarf to kind of like drape over my shoulders while I'm around the house. My hand knit drawer is growing immensely, and I don't know. I can't fit anything else in there right now. I'm gonna have to start giving things away or selling it. So this is going to be knit into something. I just don't know if it's going to be a glacier sweep shawl with maybe a matching hat, or a short row scarf, shawl, blanket, wrap. I don't know yet. Put your comments down below. What do I do with this alpaca yumminess? Please help. I know I don't have that many subscribers, but please help me. Okay, so that's also being planned right now. I think that's everything that's being planned at the moment. And then I'll always be doing Project Linus blankets, and I usually try to do 2 of those a month. I usually wait until the 15th of the month and before I start it, so it gives me the first half of the month to work on what I want to work on. I do want to work on them, but I get tired of just doing the edging on blankets or just crocheting blankets. So then, sorry, that's my husband. I hope that doesn't go off a lot. It's his iPad in the corner. So, that is all for the knitting content. If you only came for that, thank you so much for hanging around until for the 43 minutes that I chatted about my knitting. I really appreciate that you came. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. If you just want to hear the knitting content, then I will see you guys next time. If you want to stick around and chat about life and what's going on in our lives, then stay tuned and stick around for just a little bit longer. So, okay. So I already talked about how we did the eclipse viewing today. The boys, Levi really enjoyed it. Oliver only wanted to watch Robin Hood, so the old school one, not old school one, the cartoon one that I don't think I've actually seen all the way through. I'm missing it right now. They're sitting and watching it with Jonathan right now. He had today off, which is one reason why I'm getting to podcast today. But we registered Levi for school, and then we had a get-together with some of John's coworkers last weekend. They did a breakfast for dinner send-off for some of the soldiers that were leaving soon. So I had to do prep work so Oliver could have food, because we can't eat food from people's kitchens because he has celiac disease, if you haven't seen any of the episodes before. So now what I do for pancakes is I make them in muffins, which makes it much easier. I just do the 1-to-1 flour that they sell, Bob's Bread Mill. And I use my old pancake recipe, just switch out the flour and then bake them in the muffin tins, and the boys eat them up. And then I don't have to sit in front of a hot stove for 30 minutes flipping pancakes the whole time. So that was really easy. And we just had some friends give us the big bags of Bob's Red Mill flour. Those things are $15 a piece. And then we got 4 of them. So we just got $60 worth of flour for free, which was really great. We've been having, I know we're super far from what actually happened in Charlottesville last weekend, 2 weekends ago, because now it's Monday. But, I mean, it's my home state, and John's having a really hard time. He is from North Carolina, and a lot of people assume that because he's from the South, he views things a certain way, that he isn't intellectual. And I mean, that's kind of in general, a lot of people view the South that way. But I mean, it's everywhere. I see it here in El Paso. Candace from Pin Feathers and Pearls podcast talked about it. She's seeing it in Canada. And I don't have time for that ish in my life. I will fight against it. And I'm sorry to get a little political on the podcast, but I'm treating my kids to raise their voices against hateful racism, bigotry, all of that, because we're not going to grow. I'm not going to raise kids to be like that. We are definitely far from that. We view those events that happen in Charlottesville from, I don't even want to call them alt-right. They're not alt-right. They are Nazis. They are neo-Nazis, and they have no place in this country, in my opinion. I'm really hoping it's a very small percentage, but I feel that the current president of the United States does not do anything to stop it. And it actually just makes me really mad. It makes me very disheartened for the nation. It's hard to have a positive outlook on what's going on in life when you see stuff like this happening. And then it makes it really, really difficult to explain it to kids. Levi saw the video of what happened in Barcelona, Spain last weekend, and he doesn't understand why somebody would drive a car into a crowd of people on purpose. And I mean, he's 6. I mean, how much are you gonna be able to explain that to a 6-year-old? But all we can do as parents is raise them to accept others, to call out bullies, and to just not be complacent, to not be silent against these people. And again, I'm sorry for bringing this into the podcast. It just makes me really upset when there are people like this in the world. Granted, most of my friends, or acquaintances on Facebook, because not everybody that I'm friends with on Facebook are close friends, but most of these people do share my views and my ideologies. Same thing with Instagram. I had to take off the Facebook app on my phone because I found I was watching video after video of stuff that happened in Charlottesville, the platform that these people are getting to voice their hate and their racism and bigotry. It was just really making me really disheartened about everything. So I deleted the app on my phone, so then I only check it either through the web browser when I have a moment. And then I got to the point I was so informed, I didn't want to be informed anymore. Raise your hand if you feel that way. I'm sure a lot of you guys do. And it's hard because you want to be informed, you want to be knowledgeable about what's going on in current events, but it's also making me sad for the country at the same time. So, if I've lost any viewers, I'm really sorry. But like I said, I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my kids' life. It makes me sad that I even have to explain it to them in the first place, that there are people like that in the world. And I'm trying to teach them, like, these are the good people you want to look out for, because it's not going to be the last time they're going to see that in their lives, unfortunately. So we're just going to raise them to be on the good side, to be on the helping side, to volunteer, to contribute in a good way. So that's all we can do, and just hope for the best for the nation. So hopefully being on a good note, like I have an optimistic view from the people that I am close friends with that are raising children the same way, to not tolerate that BS in general, and to fight against it and protest against it, and really just kind of hope for the best for the nation. So sorry to ramble on about that for the last couple minutes, but I did want to bring it up just because I feel it's a really important topic and that we shouldn't shy away from it, because the less we, I mean, you don't want to give positive attention to it, and I feel that some media outlets are kind of doing that. They're giving them the platform to voice those opinions, even though I feel that they are completely wrong. But it also gave me hope to know that like 40,000 people showed up in Boston for the good side, again, to go against hate and all those bad words and stuff. So there's at least some good things going on, and I try to pay attention to that, and that's all we can do, right? So I think that's all I pretty much have for this week. I try to keep my episodes around 50 minutes, and I've been pretty successful with that for the last 2 or 3. So if you guys like what you saw, please like and subscribe, tell your friends. Hopefully if I can get enough subscribers, I can do some sort of giveaway. So I would really like to do that. And thank you so much for coming and hearing me chat about yarn and other crafty things. Sorry about all the Facebook dings going on in the background. I will remember to turn off the iPad next time. So thanks again for coming. And I hope you guys have a really great week and the rest of August. Hopefully I will see you guys soon, maybe within a week or 2. So love you guys. Bye.